Good morning or afternoon. This is Dr. C, and today we're going to talk about the butterfly life cycle. This is chapter 8 in the Biology 1 textbook. We'll look at several things this afternoon or morning. We'll introduce the topic. We'll talk about stage 1, the egg, stage 2, the caterpillar, stage 3, the cocoon, a pretty important part, and then stage 4, the adult butterfly. Now here we have the life cycle of the butterfly, and we can start with stage 1 over in the upper right hand corner as you're looking at the screen. Stage 1 begins when the butterfly lays eggs. So the stage 1, we get the eggs laid, and they are in stage 1. Stage 2, the eggs hatch into caterpillars. Stage 3, the caterpillars have grown and the caterpillars become cocoons. They wrap themselves in a cocoon. Stage 4, the caterpillar, the cocoon breaks apart and a butterfly emerges. Then the butterfly goes on to lay eggs, and then the cycle starts all over again. Okay, stage 1, the egg. A wide variety of shapes and colors for butterfly eggs. Usually they're very small and they're hard to see. You have to look for them really hard in order to see anything. They can be attached to branches and leaves. This is to kind of protect them and help them survive in the wild. Some of them are attached in clusters, and then others are single eggs. The monarch butterfly, for example, can lay over 400 eggs. Now, they need a large number of eggs because not all those butterflies survive the hatching process or survive getting through as caterpillars. We'll be talking a lot about the monarch. It's a very interesting butterfly. The eggs will hatch a week or so after they're laid, so it really doesn't take too terribly long for the eggs to develop. Now here's some different butterfly eggs that you can see. The lacewing butterfly up in the upper left-hand corner, little yellow clusters of eggs. The owl butterfly underneath, very complex-looking eggs, transparent shell. And then the pipevine swallowtail butterfly are these kind of orangey red looking cranberry kinds of eggs. Stage 2, the caterpillar emerges when the egg hatches. The eggs hatch, the caterpillar comes out. At this point, the caterpillar is called a larva. That's the singular. Larvae, L-A-R-V-A-E, is the plural. At least this is a Latin term, of course. And the stage is called the larval stage. The caterpillars eat all the time. They are just voraciously hungry and are always going around looking for food. That's because they're growing and they're changing, and they need a lot of energy and they need a lot of material for their growth. As they grow, the caterpillar sheds its skin. When you and I grow, our skin kind of stretches out along with us, but this doesn't happen with the caterpillar. The caterpillar literally outgrows its skin, and it sheds the skin. This process is called molting. So the caterpillar outgrows the skin and leaves the skin behind. When it's ready to change to a butterfly, the caterpillar knows when this is. It will spin a cocoon. And so the cocoon will surround the caterpillar and it will undergo changes to become a butterfly. These are some different caterpillars. These are different hairy caterpillars, probably that way to keep them from being eaten by other animals. And then there's our monarch caterpillar that we're going to be talking more about. Very beautiful striped caterpillar. Stage 3 is the cocoon. After the caterpillar has eaten for months to weeks, depends upon the species of caterpillar. They've eaten, they're ready to go. The caterpillar is ready to change into a butterfly. So it attaches itself to the stem or branch with the silk thread. It manufactures the thread And then with that same thread, it wraps itself in silk. And this silk forms a cocoon. Quite often we call this a chrysalis. Chrysalis, cocoon, same thing. This stage is called the pupal stage, P-U-P-A-L. And this is the stage where the caterpillar is in the cocoon and undergoing a very complicated transformation from a fuzzy caterpillar into a beautiful butterfly. Here are some steps in the formation of the cocoon. You'll notice on the stage in the first picture that the caterpillar has hooked itself onto a branch, and then it's hanging down and starting. You can see the little light brown cocoon starting to form down on the bottom end of the caterpillar, and the cocoon gradually grows up the caterpillar until the caterpillar is completely covered by the cocoon and ready to undergo change. Here's our monarch butterfly cocoon. A nice green thing, blends in well with the leaves around it, so its enemies can't get at it easily. And then we have stage 4, the butterfly. The cocoon opens and the butterfly comes out. The butterfly pumps fluids into the wings. Initially the wings are flat and kind of scrunched up, and the butterfly can't fly because they're folded up and not ready to go. But the butterfly pumps fluid into the wings and shakes them out, and they dry out, and then the butterfly can fly away. Now there are thousands of tiny scales on these wings, and this is pretty important because this is what gives the butterflies their different colors. If you handle a butterfly and knock the scales off of the wings, the butterfly can't fly. So these scales are very important for the butterfly to be able to get around. Now here's some pictures of some different butterfly scales, some green ones, some sort of bluish green ones, and some kind of yellow and orange ones. Very complex. You can see all of the little scales on the butterfly wing. Very important. Here's an Australian birdwing butterfly, and you notice all of the different colors that this butterfly has. The eastern-tailed blue butterfly, a very beautiful blue butterfly, and if you look real closely you can see the scales in the wings. And then there's our friend the monarch butterfly. The monarch butterfly, among other things, is the Texas state insect. You probably didn't know that different states have state insects. Well, they do. They have state everything. They have state fruit, state vegetables, state flowers, state animals, state this and state that. And the monarch butterfly is the Texas state insect. And we'll see why in a little while, because monarch butterflies migrate through Texas every year on their way to traveling south. Now, we'll talk more about monarch migration in our live lecture later this week, but here's a very brief summary of how the monarchs travel. They have two basic traveling destinations. If they're west of the Rockies, if they're formed in Washington and Oregon, they will fly down to California primarily, and they'll go down to the southwest. East of the Rockies, they tend to go either to Florida if they're along the east coast, or major amount of the butterflies will go down into Mexico, and they'll fly down there, and then, well, we'll talk about that on our live lecture. It's a very fascinating migratory pattern. Here's a picture of the sky when the butterflies are migrating. The sky is filled with hundreds and thousands and almost millions of butterflies flying south for the winter. Now, the adult butterflies, as I mentioned, will fly south either to California or to Mexico as the winter approaches. The interesting thing is the butterflies have never traveled that route before. The way the butterflies breed, they have a several month life cycle. So these butterflies that are flying south in the fall were born in the north. and they've never traveled that way before. How do they know where to go? After they get to their destination, they lay eggs, and then these eggs hatch and these butterflies return north. Again, the question is, how do they know where to go? And we'll look at some of the scientific research that kind of helps us understand that. So we've talked about the stages of butterfly metamorphosis. That means changing of shape. The egg hatches, the caterpillar comes out, the caterpillar eats like crazy, and then not really goes into hibernation, but goes into a cocoon that it weaves, and after a while out comes the adult butterfly. And we've talked about the migration of the monarch butterfly to Mexico, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So thanks for listening, and goodbye. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk to you later.